So specifically, I want to cover the most common country that you're probably from and what issues are you specifically having with the PTE exam and what things you should focus on. Hey guys, long time no see. Alex here again. Finally, good to see you. This week I want to talk about something a little bit different. So I haven't made any videos for a while. We've been crazy busy. Everybody's giving the exam this month and next month. So what I noticed lately is that we have a lot of students, we have a lot of diversity. So all the students we have are from different countries. Today I was sitting and counting in my head in class from which countries we have the students. I counted more than 9 countries. So specifically I want to cover the most common country that you're probably from and what issues are you specifically having with the PTE exam and what things you should focus on. So the number one, of course, most of the students we get is from India. But India is a big place, as you know, as I know already. There are different regions, different accents, different languages, and it's like really hectic to figure out what's somebody's area of weakness. So you cannot put everybody from India into one box and say everybody has the same problem. So first area, I'm going to start with Punjab. So those of you guys that are sitting and watching this in Punjab, or maybe you're Punjabi and you're here in Australia, a few issues that people tend to encounter. So the first thing I noticed is that most people in Punjab, they're not as exposed to hearing and listening to English all the time, as opposed to some of the other areas like Mumbai and Delhi and so on. So write from dictation tends to be a big issue. Unless you guys practice write from dictation a lot, it's really difficult to hear and recognize the words, especially if you hear it with a British accent, which is very common on the exam. And let's say you have a sentence like, teaching assistants receive a monthly stipend for housing. So that word there, stipend, right? With a British accent, it's really hard to pick up. So those of you guys that are in Punjab or you are Punjabi from a Punjabi background, you really need to improve your listening and practice write from dictation. The second thing that people from Punjab usually struggle with is the reading vocabulary. So that's something that's really hard to teach. I cannot teach you reading vocabulary in 1 week. That's going to get you 90 on the exam. So reading vocabulary is really important. You practice the real exam questions. And it's really important you understand collocations, and maybe you have a short list of collocations specifically to prepare for the exam. Because a lot of these words, they're not, the literal translation of some of these words that are collocations is like doesn't make any sense. So unless you know, unless you heard it before, you would not recognize something. Like the expression to blaze a trail. If you literally look up at the definition of blaze and trail, it's like blaze is like something hot. It's like a heat or a flame. So blaze a trail doesn't make sense, but it's actually a collocation. So if you're from Punjab, make sure your listening skill, you practice your write from dictation. Make sure you work on your vocabulary for the reading fill in the blank section. And the last thing is pronunciation. So if you haven't seen one of the previous videos we had, some people struggle with pronunciation, and specifically the girls from Punjab tend to have a very soft voice and it doesn't have a lot of power. The reason why is because they tend to breathe from their chest rather than their stomach. So make sure whenever you're practicing your speaking, you're taking deep breath and you're speaking from the stomach like this rather than speaking from your chest like this. So it really makes a big difference. Make sure that's covered. Second is in India, we get a lot of students from Gujarat. So Gujarat, usually the listening is good because they're more Gujaratis, they're more used to listening to English, whether it's TV, movies, whatever it is. But the thing is, again, vocabulary is a weakness, especially reading fill in the blanks. And some girls from Gujarat, they have a very soft voice. They're very soft, very calm voice. So girls from Gujarat, if you have one of those voices that's very quiet and very calm, you need to speak with a lot of power. Pretend you're getting angry at your husband, or pretend you're getting angry at your brother or sister, and like you're angry and you're loud, because this is how you have to do your speaking section on the exam. Now on to southern part of India. So we have people that speak Telugu or Tamil. So with this, I find you guys are usually very well trained in the listening section. Your vocabulary is pretty good. The issue is your speaking. If you ever heard anybody that speaks Tamil or Telugu, or if you're one of those people, you speak way too fast. And what happens whenever you're doing read aloud and you're doing retell lecture specifically, you guys tend to go so fast that the computer does not catch the S's and the EDs at the end of words, which is a big problem. So there's one read aloud that's very common. It's this. Yellow is the most optimistic color, yet surprisingly, people lose their tempers most commonly in yellow rooms and babies cry more in them. So, right, this is how like the sentence is read aloud. Whereas people that speak Telugu or Tamil go, yellow is the most optimistic color, yet surprisingly, people lose their tempers most often in yellow rooms. And the thing is, because you can speak that fast in your language, it does not translate so good when the computer is marking you. Because if myself or Justin or somebody else listens to you and they understand what you're saying, for the computer it's way too fast. So you need to control your speed. You need to speak at a pace that the computer can pick up. You need to pronounce the S's and the EDs. So that's very, very important. So those are the most common things for India. Now on to the second most common group of students we have is students from Nepal. I love students from Nepal. I love all my students, but students from Nepal, they're usually very hardworking. Especially in our classes, we have a lot of girls that are in nursing. So in nursing, obviously, you have to study a lot. You have to memorize a lot of terminology. You have to know a lot of vocabulary. So that's usually not a problem. The issue with girls from Nepal is this. People from Nepal usually tend to have issues with the S or STH or SH sound. So instead of saying fish, people from Nepal say fish. So they cannot say the SH. So that's one thing you need to emphasize. Instead of skipping it and saying like fifth, try to say it almost like a hard CH sound. So imagine anytime you have the SH letter, imagine that it's letter CH. So like catch, imagine it's a hard sound. So whenever you have SH, again, pretend that it's the CH combination, which is easier for most people to pronounce. And the second thing, if you're from Nepal, and it doesn't usually apply to the guys, it usually applies to the girls. If you're a girl from Nepal and you're usually somebody who's very shy, very timid, very calm, very quiet, you need to make sure you're loud during the exam. If your voice is very soft, if your voice is very quiet, the computer will not record that well. So again, watch one of the previous videos we had in speaking about pronunciation. You need to speak louder and you need to speak deeper. So almost with a manly voice. So do that. If you're from Nepal, you will smash the exam. The next common group of students that we have here is from Colombia. So people from South America, especially Colombians, you guys usually have a massive advantage. A lot of the words in vocabulary in English are similar to Spanish because they come from the Latin, from the Roman language group. So a lot of the words have the same meaning, or even if you don't know the word, you can logically figure out what it means. So reading is usually not an issue, and reading is the hardest thing to teach somebody. But you guys in Colombia, you speak way too fast. If you ever heard Spanish speakers from Colombia speak in their native language, like, it's like nonstop. So the issue is whenever you guys are doing questions like read aloud, whenever you're doing questions like retell lecture, is a really big issue because in Spanish, you tend to combine 2 or 3 words together. Like you say clusters of words together. And you'll hear Aussies kind of do the same thing. Like they often say, hey, how you going, mate? And if it's your first time listening to an Aussie, you go, excuse me, what did you say? So as you guys know, I'm Canadian. So for me, I speak very more clearly maybe than somebody who's a typical Australian. But same thing, if you're a Spanish speaker from Colombia specifically, you guys need to pace yourself. You need to speak at a consistent speed and you cannot swallow the words. Make sure the S's, make sure the EDs, make sure that the R's, the words are very clear, specifically for read aloud and specifically for retell lecture. And last but not least, Brazil. So Brazil students, really nice people, really fun people to talk to, always happy, always smiling. From my experience, very positive vibe. Here's the issue. If you're from Brazil, and again, this doesn't apply to everybody, it just applies to maybe certain people from my experience, you guys love to party and you do not love to study. So that's a big issue because for PTE, in order to succeed, there are a few things you need to memorize. There are essay formats and there are formats for the speaking section for describe, image, and retell lecture specifically. And people from Brazil, I guess the lifestyle there, you guys really don't enjoy memorizing and you really don't pay attention to school that much or to your studies. So a lot of time whenever I'm teaching Brazilian students, I notice that after every couple of minutes, after 15, 20 minutes, I have to change the topic and say something entertaining to keep them engaged because otherwise they lose their focus really easy and they really don't like to study. So if you're from Brazil, guys, if you're taking PTE, and it is easier than IELTS, because for you IELTS doesn't work, for most people it doesn't work for the highest score, you really need to sit down and put your head to the wall, put your head to your desk, and just memorize the 3 or 4 things you need to memorize for the PTE exam. So guys, this is it. Hopefully this was a little bit of more entertainment or a little bit more of a change up from what you usually do, but I'm sure there's a lot of valuable information. So if you're from Punjab, cover those things. If you're from south of India or Gujarat, cover those things. Nepalese students, Colombian students, Brazilian students, all of you guys have different approaches. If I missed anybody specifically, leave it in the comment section what country you're from, and I'll give you more videos from my experience, what areas specifically you need to focus on. So catch you guys next week. Talk to you soon. See you later. Subscribe, like, thumbs up. Bye-bye.